I sat in that sterile conference room at TechFlow Solutions, watching my coffee grow cold as the words left David Morrison's mouth like daggers. 24 months of my life, countless sleepless nights, missed family gatherings, and weekends spent debugging code were about to be handed over to Tyler Brooks, a 23-year-old intern who had started 3 weeks ago and couldn't even figure out how to access our shared drive without calling IT support twice. The room erupted in polite applause as David praised Tyler's fresh perspective and innovative approach to client management systems. I forced my lips into what I hoped resembled a smile, congratulated Tyler with a handshake that felt like shaking hands with my own grave, and quietly began planning my escape from this nightmare. 2.5 years ago, I walked into TechFlow Solutions as their new senior systems analyst, excited about the opportunity to work for a growing tech company in downtown Seattle. At 32, I had enough experience to recognize potential when I saw it, and TechFlow seemed like the perfect place to build something meaningful. What I found instead was a technological disaster waiting to happen. The company's client management system was a patchwork of outdated software held together by digital duct tape and prayer. We were hemorrhaging major accounts because clients couldn't access their data reliably. Reports took hours to generate, what should have taken minutes, and our customer service team spent more time apologizing for technical difficulties than actually helping customers. Companies like Hartford Industries and Pacific Manufacturing were threatening to terminate contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. During my first month, I spent countless hours analyzing our infrastructure, talking to frustrated account managers, and documenting the cascade of failures that plagued our daily operations. The existing system was built on obsolete frameworks that hadn't been updated since 2015, with databases so poorly organized that running basic queries sometimes crashed entire servers. I knew I had to act fast. I spent 3 weeks developing a comprehensive proposal for a complete system overhaul, including detailed mock-ups, cost projections, and implementation timelines. When I presented my plan to David Morrison, his initial reaction was skepticism mixed with concern about the budget and development timeline. "Rachel, this is ambitious," he said, leaning back in his leather chair and tapping his pen against the mahogany conference table. "Building a system from scratch sounds expensive and risky. What if we just patch the current system?" I pulled up my laptop and showed him the prototype I had built during evenings and weekends. The interface was clean, intuitive, and lightning fast. Data that took our current system 15 minutes to compile appeared in under 30 seconds. Client profiles that previously required navigating through 7 different screens could now be accessed with 2 clicks. David's expression changed as he watched the demonstration. His eyebrows raised when I showed him the automated reporting features that would eliminate hours of manual work for our account managers. He leaned forward when I explained how the new security protocols would protect client data better than anything our competitors offered. "This is impressive," he admitted, scrolling through the prototype. "How long would full development take?" 18 months for core functionality with additional features rolling out over the following 6 months, I replied. "I can handle the primary development myself with support from our existing IT team for testing and implementation." 3 days later, David called me into his office and gave me the green light. "Rachel, I'm putting you in charge of this project. You have full authority over development decisions, and I want weekly progress reports. Make this happen." What followed were the most challenging and rewarding months of my career. I immersed myself in advanced programming languages I had never used before, taught myself database architecture principles that weren't covered in my computer science degree, and spent countless hours integrating 7 different legacy systems into one cohesive platform. The personal cost was enormous. I missed my sister Emma's wedding shower because I was debugging a critical authentication error that threatened to delay our timeline by 3 weeks. I canceled a long-planned vacation to Yellowstone with my boyfriend Jake because our beta testing revealed compatibility issues with older client hardware. I worked through a brutal case of flu because postponing a client presentation could have meant losing our second largest account. Jake, who teaches high school mathematics and understood the importance of deadlines, was incredibly patient initially. He brought me dinner during late-night coding sessions, rubbed my shoulders when I was hunched over my laptop for 12 hours straight, and listened to me vent about stubborn database corruption issues that kept me awake at night. "You're brilliant at what you do," he would say, "but remember that you're more than your job." I appreciated his support, but I couldn't make him understand the pressure I felt. This project represented everything I had worked toward in my career. Success would establish me as a senior developer capable of handling enterprise-level challenges. Failure could set my professional growth back by years. The technical challenges seemed endless. Integrating client data from 7 different sources required writing custom translation algorithms for each legacy system. Some databases used proprietary formats that took weeks to decode. Others had accumulated years of duplicate entries, corrupted records, and inconsistent data formatting that required painstaking manual cleanup. I worked with frustrated clients like Patricia Hawkins at Meridian Corporation, who had been ready to terminate their contract before I started personal consultations to understand exactly what they needed from our system. I spent hours on phone calls with Hartford Industries' IT director walking through security requirements and compliance standards that our new platform needed to meet. Slowly, the system began taking shape. The interface was elegant and responsive. Data retrieval was fast and accurate. Security features exceeded industry standards. Most importantly, early beta testing with 3 pilot clients showed efficiency improvements of 30% or more in their daily operations. David was thrilled with the progress reports. During our weekly meetings, he praised my dedication and technical skills. He mentioned my work in company newsletters and board presentations. I felt like I was finally proving myself as a valuable asset to TechFlow's future. The beta testing phase lasted 4 months and exceeded every expectation. Pilot clients reported dramatic improvements in their ability to access data, generate reports, and manage their accounts. Customer satisfaction scores increased significantly among beta users. Even our customer service team noticed fewer technical support calls related to system errors and slow performance. I was exhausted but proud. 2 years of sacrifice had created something that would benefit the company and our clients for years to come. The platform was stable, secure, and scalable. We were ready for full implementation across all client accounts. That's when everything changed. During the meeting where I expected to receive congratulations and discuss the rollout timeline, I watched Tyler Brooks ask basic questions about file permissions and database access that revealed his complete lack of technical background. When I offered to help him understand the system architecture I had spent 2 years perfecting, David cut me off sharply. "Tyler will be working independently to bring fresh energy and new perspectives to this project," David announced. "We want him to approach the system with fresh eyes without being influenced by previous development decisions." I sat there stunned, realizing that my loyalty, expertise, and 24 months of dedication meant absolutely nothing to the man I had trusted with my career. The following weeks became a masterclass in professional humiliation. David assigned me to train Tyler on my own system, watching helplessly as this inexperienced intern took credit for work that had consumed years of my life. Tyler's questions revealed the depth of his incompetence with embarrassing clarity. "Why did you choose this programming language instead of something simpler?" he asked during our first training session, staring at code he couldn't begin to understand. "Because this language handles large-scale data processing more efficiently than alternatives," I explained patiently. "The client database contains over 2 million records that need real-time access." Tyler nodded knowingly while typing notes on his laptop, but his follow-up questions made it clear he had no idea what real-time data processing actually meant. He asked why we needed databases at all when everything could just be stored in spreadsheets. He suggested replacing our security encryption with something users could remember easily. The situation became more surreal when David arranged for Tyler to present my monthly progress report to the board of directors. I watched from the back of the boardroom as this intern stumbled through slides describing technical achievements he couldn't explain using terminology he had clearly memorized without understanding. The new authentication protocols represent a significant advancement in client data security. Tyler read from my presentation notes, mispronouncing authentication and looking confused when board member Margaret Walsh asked about encryption standards. I wanted to stand up and correct his fumbling explanations, but David shot me warning looks whenever I shifted in my seat. After the presentation, board members approached Tyler with congratulations while I remained invisible in the corner, watching my work being credited to someone who couldn't spell algorithm correctly. The truth about Tyler's connection to David came out through office gossip that Sarah Chen, my best friend in the marketing department, reluctantly shared with me during lunch at our usual cafe downtown. "Rachel, I hate being the bearer of bad news," Sarah said, stirring her soup nervously. "But everyone knows Tyler is David's nephew. His wife's sister is Tyler's mother. David pulled strings to get him this internship, and apparently, Tyler has been bragging about getting fast-tracked into management." The nepotism explained everything, but it didn't make the situation any easier to endure. I watched Tyler stumble through client meetings using my research and presentations while making fundamental errors that undermine months of relationship building. During a video conference with Hartford Industries, he confidently promised system capabilities that didn't exist and couldn't be implemented without major architectural changes. "Our new platform will automatically sync with any third-party software you're currently using," Tyler announced, apparently unaware that such integration required custom programming for each individual software package. I spent the rest of that meeting sending apologetic emails to Hartford's IT team, explaining technical limitations and promising realistic solutions to their integration needs. Tyler never acknowledged his mistakes or thanked me for damage control. My relationship with Jake began deteriorating as I struggled to cope with the daily humiliation. I came home exhausted and bitter, venting about Tyler's incompetence and David's betrayal, until Jake grew tired of hearing the same complaints night after night. "Maybe it's time to look for a new job," he suggested gently one evening as I ranted about Tyler's latest technical blunder. "You're making yourself miserable by staying in this situation." "I can't just abandon 2 years of work," I replied, though I knew he was right. "That system is my creation. I can't let someone destroy it through incompetence." Jake sighed and returned to grading papers while I stared at my laptop, contemplating my dwindling options. The office dynamics shifted noticeably as colleagues sensed management's preferences. People who had previously sought my technical advice began directing their questions to Tyler, even though his answers were often wrong or incomplete. I found myself excluded from meetings where my system was being discussed, only learning about important decisions through secondhand information. My performance review, scheduled for the end of the quarter, was postponed indefinitely without explanation. Linda Walsh from Human Resources offered vague reassurances when I asked about the delay, but her uncomfortable expression suggested she knew more than she was saying. The final insult came when I discovered emails Tyler had sent to David and several board members describing my work in terms that made my blood boil. According to Tyler's correspondence, he had inherited a problematic system with serious design flaws and was working diligently to fix the previous developer's mistakes. One email particularly stung. "Rachel seems resistant to necessary changes and appears territorial about code she wrote. I believe her attachment to outdated approaches is hindering progress toward a more modern solution." Reading those words felt like being punched in the stomach. Tyler was actively undermining my professional reputation while benefiting from my expertise, and David was apparently encouraging this character assassination. I printed copies of Tyler's emails and stored them in my personal files, knowing that documentation might become important if the situation escalated further. I also began updating my resume and portfolio, preparing for the possibility that my time at TechFlow was coming to an end. The breaking point came when Tyler scheduled a presentation for senior management, announcing his comprehensive system improvements without consulting me or acknowledging my continued involvement in maintaining the platform. I realized that David and Masasir were systematically erasing my contributions to make Tyler's eventual promotion appear justified. As I sat in my cubicle listening to Tyler practice his presentation in the conference room next door, I felt something inside me snap. I had sacrificed too much and worked too hard to watch my career be destroyed by nepotism and incompetence. It was time to take control of my future, even if it meant walking away from everything I had built. That evening, I sat in my car in the TechFlow parking garage for 20 minutes, tears streaming down my face as the full weight of my situation crashed over me. 2 years of my life had been stolen by office politics, and I felt powerless to stop the theft. I called my sister Emma, who was finishing her shift at Seattle General Hospital. "I can't do this anymore," I sobbed into my phone. "They're destroying everything I worked for, and there's nothing I can do to stop it." Emma listened patiently as I recounted the latest humiliations, then offered the kind of practical advice that only a nurse who deals with life and death situations can provide. "Rachel, you're not powerless," she said firmly. "You have skills, experience, and a track record of success. Don't let these people convince you that your worth is tied to one company or one project. Document everything you can protect yourself legally and start looking for opportunities where your talent will be appreciated." Her words gave me clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, I decided to take action. That night, I began secretly documenting Tyler's incompetence and the security vulnerabilities his changes were creating. Over the following days, I discovered that Tyler had made unauthorized modifications to critical security protocols, apparently believing he was streamlining the authentication process. His changes had created potential data breach vulnerabilities that could expose client information to outside threats. Any experienced developer would have recognized these security holes immediately, but Tyler lacked the knowledge to understand what he had broken. I compiled detailed documentation of these vulnerabilities, including screenshots of Tyler's code changes and explanations of the security risks they created. When I attempted to schedule a meeting with David to discuss these critical issues, his assistant informed me that his calendar was full for the next 2 weeks. "This is about security vulnerabilities that could compromise client data," I explained. "It's urgent." "I'll pass along your concerns," she replied dismissively, "but Mr. Morrison is focused on other priorities right now." Frustrated by David's unwillingness to address legitimate security concerns, I began exploring other options. I updated my LinkedIn profile, reached out to former colleagues who had moved to other companies, and started applying for positions that matched my skill level and experience. The response was encouraging. Within a week, I had phone interviews scheduled with 3 different companies, including Pinnacle Systems, a rapidly growing firm that specialized in enterprise software solutions. Their CTO, Marcus Torres, was impressed by my portfolio and wanted to discuss senior developer positions that offered significantly better compensation and growth opportunities. "Your experience with large-scale system integration is exactly what we need," Marcus explained during our video interview. "We're expanding our client services division and looking for someone who can lead technical development while managing client relationships." The contrast between Marcus's respect for my experience and David's dismissive treatment was striking. Marcus asked detailed questions about my technical decisions, praised innovative solutions I had implemented, and treated me like a professional whose expertise had value. Meanwhile, my situation at TechFlow continued deteriorating. Sarah warned me that Tyler was pushing David to transfer me to a junior role in the customer service department, claiming that my attitude problems made me unsuitable for technical leadership. "He's telling people that you're undermining his authority and creating a hostile work environment," Sarah whispered during our coffee break. "David seems to be buying into it." I realized that David was planning to demote me to make Tyler's promotion appear legitimate. By moving me to a lower position, they could rewrite history to suggest that Tyler had always been the primary developer while I had been merely a support technician. The manipulation was breathtaking in its audacity, but I was no longer surprised by David's willingness to sacrifice truth for the sake of nepotism. My breaking point came when I discovered that Tyler had scheduled a meeting with Meridian Corporation, our most important client, to present what he described as major system upgrades that he had personally developed. Meridian's contract represented 40% of TechFlow's annual revenue, and Tyler's incompetence could destroy that relationship permanently. I had spent months building trust with Meridian's executives, particularly their CEO, Patricia Hawkins, who valued technical competence and straight answers above corporate politicking. Patricia had specifically requested that I remain her primary contact for all technical issues, and she had expressed satisfaction with the platform's performance during beta testing. Tyler's plan to present my work as his own creation while potentially making promises he couldn't keep represented a direct threat to TechFlow's most valuable client relationship. I faced a choice between protecting my professional integrity and protecting the company that had betrayed me. The decision wasn't difficult. I had spent too much of my career building my reputation to watch it be destroyed by an inexperienced intern's ego trip. If Tyler wanted to claim credit for my work, he would have to prove he could handle the responsibility that came with that credit. I decided to attend the Meridian meeting uninvited to ensure that our most important client received accurate information about the system they were depending on. Whatever consequences followed, I would face them with my professional integrity intact. As I prepared for what might be my final stand at TechFlow, I felt a sense of calm determination that had been missing for months. I was no longer fighting for David's approval or Tyler's respect. I was fighting for my own self-worth and professional future. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for whatever came next. I arrived at Meridian Corporation's downtown office building 30 minutes before the scheduled meeting, my stomach churning with nervous energy and righteous determination. The sleek glass lobby reflected my professional appearance back at me: navy blazer, crisp white shirt, and the confident posture of someone who knew her worth, even if her current employer didn't recognize it. Tyler was already in the conference room when I knocked on the door, his laptop connected to the large wall-mounted display that was showing slides I had created months earlier. His face went pale when he saw me, but he quickly recovered and forced a nervous smile. "Rachel, I wasn't expecting you," he stammered, fumbling with his presentation remote. "David didn't mention that you would be attending. I thought I should be here in case technical questions arise," I replied calmly, taking a seat near the back of the room. "Meridian is our most important client, and I want to ensure they receive accurate information." Patricia Hawkins entered the room with her usual commanding presence, followed by 3 other Meridian executives I recognized from previous meetings. Patricia was 57 years old, silver-haired, and had built her reputation on making tough decisions based on facts rather than personalities. She valued competence above all else and had little patience for corporate games. "Good morning, everyone," Patricia said, settling into her chair at the head of the conference table. "Tyler, I understand you have some exciting updates about our client management platform." What followed was the most uncomfortable hour I had ever witnessed in a professional setting. Tyler began his presentation with confidence that quickly evaporated as he attempted to explain technical concepts he fundamentally didn't understand. Our new authentication system uses advanced algorithms to ensure maximum security while maintaining user-friendly access. Tyler read from his notes, clearly having memorized phrases without understanding their meaning. Patricia raised her hand. "Can you explain what specific encryption standards you're using for data transmission?" Tyler's face flushed red as he shuffled through his papers looking for an answer that wasn't there. "We're using industry-standard encryption protocols that provide excellent security," he replied vaguely. "Which protocols specifically?" Patricia pressed. Our IT department needs to know whether you're using AES 256 RSA 2048 or some other standard for compliance documentation. I watched Tyler's panic grow as he realized he couldn't answer basic questions about the system he was claiming to have developed. He fumbled through his laptop files, clearly searching for information he had never bothered to learn. The specific technical details are handled by our back-end systems, Tyler said, his voice cracking slightly. The important thing is that your data is completely secure. Patricia's expression darkened. She had built a multi-million-dollar corporation by demanding precise answers to important questions, and Tyler's evasiveness was clearly irritating her. Tyler, yesterday, our IT team asked about API integration capabilities for our existing inventory management software. Can you walk us through how that integration would work? This question struck at the heart of Tyler's incompetence. API integration required deep understanding of both systems' architectures, programming languages, and data structures. It was exactly the kind of complex technical challenge I had spent months solving during the platform's development. Tyler's eyes darted around the room desperately before landing on me. Actually, Rachel has been handling some of the more technical aspects of the integration process. Maybe she could explain those details. Every person in the room turned to look at me, and I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on my shoulders. Tyler was trying to use my expertise to cover for his incompetence while still claiming overall credit for my work. Patricia's sharp gaze suggested she was beginning to understand the true dynamics of this presentation. I had a choice: bail Tyler out and enable his continued theft of my accomplishments, or let him face the consequences of claiming credit for work he couldn't explain. The choice was easy. I'd be happy to clarify the technical details, I said, standing and walking to the front of the room. Tyler, may I use your laptop to show the actual system architecture? For the next 20 minutes, I provided Meridian's executives with detailed explanations of security protocols, integration capabilities, and performance metrics that demonstrated my intimate knowledge of every aspect of the platform. I answered their technical questions with precision and confidence, explaining complex concepts in terms that were both accurate and accessible. Patricia's relief was visible as she received the thorough, knowledgeable responses she had been expecting from the beginning of the meeting. She asked detailed questions about data, backup procedures, disaster recovery protocols, and system scalability that I answered without hesitation. This is exactly the kind of information we needed, Patricia said approvingly. Rachel, your understanding of our specific requirements is impressive. You've obviously put considerable thought into how this system serves our operational needs. Tyler sat silently in the corner, his earlier confidence completely demolished. When Patricia asked him a follow-up question about implementation timelines, he could only mumble that he would get back to her with those details. The meeting concluded with Patricia expressing satisfaction with the platform's capabilities, but clear concern about the communication breakdown that had occurred. As the Meridian executives prepared to leave, Patricia approached me directly. Rachel, I appreciate your expertise and clear explanations, she said quietly. Moving forward, I'd prefer to work with you directly on any technical issues. Your knowledge of this system is obviously far superior to what we saw from your colleague today. As Patricia and her team left the building, I felt a mixture of vindication and dread. I had successfully protected Meridian's confidence in our platform, but I had also publicly humiliated Tyler in front of our most important client. David would not be pleased when he learned what had transpired. Tyler remained silent during the elevator ride back to our office, his face red with embarrassment and anger. I could see him composing his version of events in his mind, preparing to paint me as the villain who had deliberately sabotaged his presentation. We were barely back in the building when David's assistant called my desk, summoning me to his office immediately. Tyler had apparently called David during our drive back to the office because David's expression was thunderous when I knocked on his door. Sit down, Rachel, David said coldly, not looking up from his computer screen. I just received a very disturbing call about your behavior during the Meridian meeting. I remained calm, knowing that Patricia's satisfaction with my explanations spoke louder than Tyler's wounded ego. I provided accurate technical information that Meridian requested, I replied. Their executives seemed pleased with the clarifications. David's eyes flashed with anger. You deliberately undermined Tyler's authority and embarrassed him in front of our most important client. That kind of insubordination is completely unacceptable. Tyler was providing incorrect information that could have damaged our relationship with Meridian, I responded. I felt obligated to ensure they received accurate answers to their technical questions. Your job was to support Tyler's presentation, not to take it over, David snapped. Your behavior was unprofessional and disloyal. Consider this your formal warning that future incidents of this nature will result in termination. As I walked back to my desk, I realized that my time at TechFlow was effectively over. David had made it clear that loyalty to Tyler was more important than competence, client satisfaction, or professional integrity. I could continue fighting a losing battle, or I could take control of my future by leaving on my own terms. The decision was surprisingly easy. I had proven my worth to myself and to Meridian Corporation. Now it was time to find an employer who would value that worth appropriately. I returned to my desk, feeling strangely calm despite David's threats and Tyler's continued glares from across the office. My phone showed 2 missed calls from Marcus Torres at Pinnacle Systems, and when I called him back during my lunch break, his news changed everything. Rachel, I'm glad you called back, Marcus said enthusiastically. Our board approved the position we discussed, and I'm authorized to offer you the senior developer role with a 30% salary increase, full benefits, and immediate start date if you're interested. The offer was everything I had hoped for. Challenging technical work, respectful colleagues, and compensation that reflected my actual value rather than office politics. After experiencing months of being treated as expendable, Marcus's offer felt like validation of my professional worth. I'm very interested, I replied. When would you need a decision? Take the weekend to think it over, Marcus suggested. But honestly, you're our first choice for this position. Your technical background and client management experience are exactly what we need for our expansion plans. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad drafting my resignation letter while Jake prepared dinner. Writing down my decision to leave TechFlow felt liberating, like finally admitting a painful truth I had been avoiding for months. You're making the right choice, Jake said, reading over my shoulder as I typed. I've watched this job make you miserable for weeks. It's time to work somewhere that appreciates your talents. My resignation letter was professional but thorough. I detailed the security vulnerabilities Tyler's changes had created that outlined but potential risks to client relationships and provided comprehensive documentation to ensure smooth transitions for ongoing projects. I also recommended specific steps to address technical issues that could arise after my departure. Even though David and Tyler had treated me terribly, I couldn't bring myself to sabotage systems that served clients who depended on reliable service. My professional integrity wouldn't allow me to leave without ensuring proper documentation and transition procedures. The next day, I scheduled brief meetings with key clients to ensure their concerns would be addressed after my departure. I didn't reveal my plans to resign, but I provided detailed contact information for ongoing support and outlined procedures for accessing technical assistance. Patricia Hawkins from Meridian Corporation seemed particularly pleased to hear from me. Rachel, I wanted to thank you again for yesterday's presentation, she said. Your technical expertise and clear communication are exactly what we value in our vendor relationships. I'm glad I could provide the information you needed, I replied. Please don't hesitate to contact me if additional questions arise about your platform implementation. Actually, I was wondering if you might be interested in discussing some consulting opportunities, Patricia said. Meridian is always looking for talented technical professionals who understand our business needs. I filed away Patricia's suggestion for future reference, realizing that my reputation with clients might open doors I hadn't considered. Sarah Chen insisted on taking me to dinner at our favorite restaurant, where she tried one last time to convince me to stay and fight. Rachel, you're letting them win by leaving, Sarah argued over her salmon. You built that system. It's yours. Don't let nepotism drive you away from your own creation. I'm not being driven away, I replied. I'm choosing to work somewhere that values competence over connections. Tyler can have the system, but he doesn't have the knowledge to maintain or improve it. That's going to become obvious very quickly. What about David? Are you going to explain why you're really leaving? I shook my head. David made his choice when he decided Tyler's family connection was more important than my track record. Nothing I say now will change his mind or make him question his decision. Sarah looked sad but understanding. I'm going to miss working with you. This place won't be the same without someone who actually knows what they're doing. My final day at TechFlow was bittersweet. I spent hours creating comprehensive documentation of system architecture, password lists, client contact information, and troubleshooting procedures. I organized files, logically labeled everything clearly, and left detailed notes about ongoing projects and potential technical issues. David barely acknowledged my presence when I delivered my resignation letter and transition documentation to his office. He skimmed the letter briefly, then looked up with an expression of dismissive indifference. I hope you understand that leaving under these circumstances reflects poorly on your professional character, he said coldly. Abandoning your responsibilities during a critical transition period suggests poor judgment and questionable loyalty. His words stung, but I maintained my composure. I've provided comprehensive documentation and transition materials to ensure minimal disruption to client services, I replied. My resignation gives you 2 weeks' notice, which is standard professional courtesy. 2 weeks isn't enough time to properly transition a project of this complexity, David complained. You're essentially sabotaging our operations by leaving so abruptly. Tyler has been managing this project for several weeks, I pointed out. Surely he can handle the transition with the documentation I've provided. David's expression suggested he was beginning to understand the extent of Tyler's limitations, but his pride prevented him from acknowledging the problem directly. I cleaned out my desk quietly while colleagues offered awkward goodbyes and best wishes for my future. Some seemed envious of my escape from TechFlow's toxic environment, while others appeared worried about their own job security in a company where competence clearly mattered less than personal connections. As I carried my cardboard box of personal belongings toward the elevator, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Tyler's extension, and I answered out of curiosity. Rachel, thank God you picked up, Tyler said, his voice tight with panic. I need your personal cell phone number so I can reach you after you leave. I'm sure I'll have questions about the system, and there might be urgent technical issues that need immediate attention. I stopped walking and stared at my phone in disbelief. Tyler had spent weeks claiming credit for my work, undermining my reputation, and positioning himself as the system's expert developer. Now faced with the reality of managing the platform independently, he was already admitting that he needed my help. Tyler, you've been managing this project for several weeks, I replied calmly. You should be comfortable handling any technical issues that arise. But there might be complex problems that require your specific knowledge, Tyler protested. It would be irresponsible to leave the company without providing ongoing support for critical systems. The audacity was breathtaking. Tyler wanted me to provide unpaid technical support for a system he had claimed as his own creation, ensuring his success while receiving no credit or compensation for my continued involvement. I'm confident in your ability to handle whatever challenges arise, I said, ending the call and deleting Tyler's contact information from my phone. As I drove out of TechFlow's parking garage for the final time, I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time since Tyler's arrival, I was in control of my professional future. Whatever happened next, I would face it with my integrity and self-respect intact. 3 blocks away from TechFlow, my phone rang again. Tyler's number appeared on the screen, but I didn't answer. Instead, I rolled down my windows, turned up my music, and drove toward my new life with Pinnacle Systems, leaving the toxic politics of TechFlow in my rearview mirror. Monday morning brought freedom I hadn't felt in months. Instead of dreading another day of watching Tyler butcher my work, I was sitting in Pinnacle Systems' modern office space, participating in orientation meetings with colleagues who treated me as a valuable addition to their team. Marcus Torres introduced me to the development team with genuine enthusiasm, highlighting my technical background and client management experience. My new colleagues asked thoughtful questions about my previous work and shared details about projects I would be joining. The contrast with TechFlow's toxic environment was remarkable. Rachel brings exactly the kind of enterprise-level experience we need for our expansion into larger client relationships, Marcus explained during the team meeting. Her background in system integration and client services makes her perfect for the senior developer position we discussed. I was reviewing technical specifications for my first project when Sarah called with barely contained excitement. "Rachel, you're not going to believe what's happening here," she whispered into her phone. "The entire system crashed about an hour ago and Tyler is having a complete meltdown." "What kind of crash?" I asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. "Everything. Client data reports, user authentication, the whole platform just went down during peak business hours. Tyler's been running around the office like a headless chicken, and David looks like he's going to have a heart attack." I felt a mixture of vindication and professional concern. While Tyler's panic was satisfying after months of watching him claim credit for work he didn't understand the system. Failure meant that legitimate clients were being affected by problems that could have been prevented. "Did Tyler say what caused the crash?" I asked. "He claims it was a routine system update that somehow went wrong, but nobody believes him. People are saying he tried to make changes to the core system without understanding what he was doing." Over the next few hours, Sarah provided regular updates on the chaos unfolding at TechFlow. The platform that had been running smoothly for months under my management had become completely unstable under Tyler's inexperienced handling. Client data was inaccessible, automated reports weren't generating, and the customer service team was fielding angry calls from frustrated account managers. "David's been trying to reach you for the past 2 hours," Sarah reported during her lunch break. "He's called your desk extension about 15 times, and someone said he was asking for your personal phone number." I had anticipated David's eventual panic and had already blocked TechFlow's main number from reaching my personal phone. Whatever problems Tyler had created were no longer my responsibility to solve. "Tyler finally admitted that he doesn't understand how to fix the system," Sarah continued. "He's been asking everyone in the IT department for help, but nobody knows the platform well enough to troubleshoot major problems." The irony was perfect. Tyler had spent weeks claiming that my development decisions were outdated and problematic, but now he was discovering that those same decisions were the foundation that kept the entire system functioning. Without understanding the underlying architecture, his attempts to make improvements had introduced fatal errors that cascaded throughout the platform. By Tuesday afternoon, the crisis had escalated beyond internal technical problems. Major clients were reporting complete inability to access their accounts, generate reports, or retrieve critical business data. Hartford Industries had apparently threatened legal action if their data wasn't restored within 24 hours. "It gets worse," Sarah reported during another clandestine phone call. "The backup systems aren't working properly either. Tyler apparently made changes to the backup procedures without understanding how they integrated with the main database. Now, they can't restore previous versions of the data because the backup files are corrupted." I winced at the implications. Proper backup procedures were among the first things I had implemented when building the platform specifically to prevent the kind of disaster Tyler had created through his incompetence. His modifications had eliminated the safety nets that could have minimized the damage from his mistakes. "Local business news picked up the story," Sarah added. "There's an article online about TechFlow's technical difficulties affecting multiple major corporate clients. The stock price dropped 12% yesterday." Wednesday brought news that made my vindication complete. Patricia Hawkins from Meridian Corporation had apparently called TechFlow, demanding immediate resolution to the access problems affecting her company's daily operations. When Tyler couldn't provide satisfactory answers or realistic timelines for fixes, Patricia had requested a meeting with David to discuss alternative solutions. She specifically asked whether you might be available for consulting work to help resolve the crisis, Sarah reported. David apparently told her you were no longer available, but she said she would find a way to contact you directly. Sure enough, Patricia called my new office number at Pinnacle Systems that afternoon, having obtained my contact information through mutual business connections. "Rachel, I hope you don't mind me reaching out to you directly," Patricia said, her voice reflecting the stress of managing a corporation without access to critical client management tools. Meridian Corporation is facing serious operational disruptions because of problems with the TechFlow platform you developed. "I'm sorry to hear about the difficulties you're experiencing," I replied carefully. "Unfortunately, I'm no longer associated with TechFlow or their client management system." "I understand your position," Patricia said. "But I'm wondering whether Pinnacle Systems might be interested in developing alternative solutions for companies that need reliable client management platforms. This crisis has made it clear that we need backup options for critical business systems." Her suggestion was intriguing. Meridian Corporation represented exactly the kind of large-scale client that Pinnacle Systems hoped to attract, and their dissatisfaction with TechFlow could open doors for competitive opportunities. "I'd be happy to discuss Pinnacle's capabilities with you," I replied. "We specialize in enterprise-level solutions and we have experience managing complex client relationships." "Excellent," Patricia said. "I'm also aware of other TechFlow clients who are questioning their platform reliability after this week's problems. If Pinnacle could provide equivalent or better services, several companies might be interested in exploring alternatives." As I ended the call with Patricia, I realized that Tyler's incompetence hadn't just vindicated my professional abilities, it had created business opportunities that could benefit my new employer significantly. The clients who had experienced TechFlow's platform collapse were now actively seeking alternatives, and my reputation for technical competence had followed me to Pinnacle Systems. Thursday brought the final blow to TechFlow's credibility. An emergency board meeting was called to address the crisis and develop damage control strategies. According to Sarah's Inside Information Board, members were demanding explanations for how a supposedly stable system had failed so catastrophically under new management. David tried to blame the problems on underlying technical issues that existed before Tyler took over the project, Sarah reported, but board members weren't buying it. Margaret Walsh apparently asked why these issues hadn't been identified during the months when the system was running smoothly under previous management. Tyler's position had become untenable. His claims of expertise had been thoroughly discredited by his inability to resolve the crisis he had created. David's nepotism was now costing the company millions of dollars in lost revenue-damaged client relationships and emergency consulting fees for outside technical experts. The board is apparently considering bringing in an external consulting firm to rebuild the entire system from scratch, Sarah added. They've lost confidence in TechFlow's internal technical capabilities. I felt no satisfaction in TechFlow's struggles, only relief that I had escaped before being dragged down by their poor management decisions. My choice to leave had proven wise, and my new position at Pinnacle Systems offered opportunities for growth that TechFlow had never provided. As the week ended, I reflected on how quickly Tyler's arrogance had transformed into desperate pleas for help. The system he had claimed was outdated and problematic had proven to be more complex and sophisticated than he could manage. His attempts to improve my work had revealed the depth of his inexperience and the value of the expertise he had dismissed so carelessly. David's calls to my blocked number continued sporadically, but I felt no obligation to rescue the company that had treated my contributions with such disrespect. Tyler and David had made their choices, and now they were facing the natural consequences of prioritizing nepotism over competence. My future lay with colleagues who valued technical expertise and professional integrity, not with a company that had sacrificed both for the sake of family connections. Friday morning brought the news I had been expecting. Sarah called with barely contained excitement to report that Tyler had submitted his resignation effective immediately. Unable to cope with the technical crisis he had created or the board's demands for accountability. He's completely broken, Sarah reported. Yesterday, he was found crying in his car during lunch break. This morning, he cleaned out his desk and left without saying goodbye to anyone. David tried to convince him to stay, but Tyler said he couldn't handle the pressure anymore. I felt a complex mixture of emotions hearing about Tyler's departure. While his resignation validated my technical expertise and professional judgment, I took no pleasure in his personal distress. Tyler had been young, inexperienced, and overwhelmed by responsibilities he wasn't qualified to handle. The real villain in this story was David Morrison, who had prioritized family connections over company welfare and employee fairness. "What's happening with the system?" I asked. "They've hired an emergency consulting firm at enormous expense to try rebuilding the platform from scratch," Sarah replied. "The consultants looked at your documentation and said it would take at least 6 months to recreate what you built, assuming they can recover the corrupted data Tyler destroyed." The financial implications were staggering. TechFlow was paying premium rates for emergency consulting services while continuing to lose revenue from clients who couldn't access their accounts. The total cost of Tyler's incompetence would likely exceed several $1 million when calculating consulting fees, lost contracts, and damaged reputation. Marcus Torres knocked on my office door as I was ending the call with Sarah. His expression was excited as he gestured for me to join him in the conference room. "Rachel, you're not going to believe what just happened," Marcus said as we walked down the hallway. "I just received calls from 3 major corporations asking about our client management capabilities. Apparently, word is spreading about TechFlow's technical problems and companies are looking for reliable alternatives." In the conference room, Marcus showed me inquiry emails from Hartford Industries, Pacific Manufacturing, and most surprisingly, Meridian Corporation. All 3 companies were requesting information about Pinnacle's ability to provide enterprise-level client management solutions. "Patricia Hawkins from Meridian was particularly complimentary about your technical expertise," Marcus continued. "She specifically mentioned your professionalism and knowledge during their recent crisis. If we can land even one of these accounts, it would represent massive growth for our company." The opportunity was extraordinary. These weren't cold prospects requiring months of relationship building. They were established companies actively seeking alternatives to their current platform. My reputation and relationships had followed me to Pinnacle Systems, creating business opportunities that would benefit my new colleagues and advance my career simultaneously. "I'd love to lead the technical presentations for these potential clients," I offered. "I understand their specific requirements and existing system limitations." "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say," Marcus replied enthusiastically. "Your inside knowledge of their needs gives us a huge competitive advantage." Over the following weeks, I threw myself into developing presentations and proposals for the 3 prospective clients. Working with Pinnacle's talented development team, we designed solutions that addressed specific weaknesses I had observed in TechFlow's platform while incorporating advanced features that exceeded client expectations. The presentations were overwhelmingly successful. Patricia Hawkins was particularly impressed by our proposed security enhancements and integration capabilities, which addressed concerns she had raised during her troubled relationship with TechFlow. Hartford Industries appreciated our transparent pricing and realistic implementation timelines. Pacific Manufacturing was excited about automated reporting features that would streamline their operations significantly. Within 2 months, all 3 companies had signed contracts with Pinnacle Systems, bringing over $40 million in annual revenue to my new employer. My success in landing these major accounts led to immediate recognition within the company and discussions about promotion to senior management. "Rachel, Your technical expertise and client relationships have transformed our growth trajectory, Marcus said during my quarterly review. The board has approved creating a new position for you, Vice President of Client Systems Development. You'll lead a team of 12 developers and have primary responsibility for our largest accounts. The promotion felt like vindication for every sacrifice I had made during my time at TechFlow. More importantly, it represented an opportunity to build something meaningful with colleagues who respected my contributions and supported my professional growth. My personal life improved dramatically as well. Jake noticed the positive change in my demeanor, immediately commenting that I seemed like my old self again now that I was working in a healthy environment. The stress and bitterness that had poisoned our relationship during my final months at TechFlow disappeared, replaced by excitement about my work and optimism about our future together. "You're glowing," Jake said one evening as we prepared dinner together. "It's amazing what working with decent people can do for your happiness." He was right. The contrast between TechFlow's toxic politics and Pinnacle's collaborative culture was remarkable. I felt valued, respected, and challenged in ways that brought out my best professional qualities. 6 months after leaving TechFlow, I received industry recognition that completed my vindication. The Pacific Northwest Technology Association awarded me their Innovation Excellence Award for outstanding contributions to enterprise software development. The award ceremony was attended by hundreds of local technology professionals, including several former TechFlow colleagues who congratulated me on my success. Sarah had left TechFlow 3 months after my departure, joining Pinnacle Systems as director of our new client systems marketing division. Her insider knowledge of TechFlow's continuing struggles provided occasional updates on the company's downward trajectory. "They never recovered from the platform collapse," Sarah reported. "David was forced to resign by the board of directors, and the company is rumored to be exploring merger options with larger competitors. Most of their major clients have switched to other vendors." While I felt no personal animosity toward TechFlow or its employees, their struggle served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing personal connections over professional competence. David's decision to favor Tyler had cost the company its reputation, major clients, and ultimately its independence. Tyler, according to Sarah's research, had found an appropriate entry-level position with a smaller company where he could learn foundational technical skills without being responsible for critical systems. I hoped he would use the experience to develop genuine expertise rather than relying on family connections for advancement. The most satisfying aspect of my journey wasn't the professional success or financial rewards, though both were gratifying. It was the restoration of my confidence in my own abilities and worth. TechFlow's toxic environment had made me question my competence and professional judgment, but my success at Pinnacle Systems proved that my skills were valuable and my standards were appropriate. During quiet moments in my new office, I reflected on the lessons this experience had taught me. Professional integrity cannot be compromised without personal cost. Toxic work environments poison relationships and self-esteem. Most importantly, sometimes the best response to injustice is simply succeeding elsewhere, letting competence speak louder than politics. My story concluded not with revenge or vindication, but with the simple satisfaction of work well done and relationships built on mutual respect. I had learned that my worth wasn't determined by one employer's recognition, but by my commitment to excellence and professional growth. The platform I had built at TechFlow was eventually replaced by emergency consulting work, but the skills and experience I had gained couldn't be taken away. Those capabilities had opened doors to opportunities I never could have imagined while suffering under David Morrison's mismanagement. As I looked toward the future, I felt grateful for the difficult experience that had ultimately led me to where I belonged. Sometimes, life's greatest gifts come disguised as professional setbacks, teaching us lessons about resilience, self-worth, and the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who appreciate our contributions. Jake proposed 6 months later during a weekend trip to the Olympic Peninsula, choosing a moment when I was radiating confidence and happiness about our life together. As I said yes to his proposal, I realized that my professional crisis had ultimately strengthened both my career and our relationship by forcing me to prioritize what truly mattered. Standing in that beautiful Pacific Northwest landscape, engaged to a man who loved and supported me, leading a team of talented developers and serving clients who valued my expertise, I understood that the best revenge truly was living well. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced workplace situations where nepotism or favoritism undermined merit and hard work? How did you handle conflicts between personal loyalty and professional integrity? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help others facing similar challenges. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more workplace survival stories. Share this with anyone who might benefit from knowing they're not alone in facing unfair treatment at work. Thank you for listening, and remember that your professional worth isn't determined by one employer's recognition, but by your commitment to excellence and growth. Until next time, keep believing in yourself and never stop pursuing environments where your talents are truly appreciated.